Okay, writers, we're going to start off using our imaginations just a little bit today. We're going to imagine that we are fishing. You ready to imagine with me? Okay, I want you to grab your fishing pole. Got your fishing pole? I want you to grab your hook. Put a little bait on your hook. Ready to go? All right, throw your fishing line out there. We call that casting. So cast your fishing pole out, and we're all waiting for our fish. We're waiting, and suddenly the exciting part happens. There's a fish on your hook. You feel a tug, and you know that a fish has grabbed the bait on your hook. Ready, reel your fish in as fast as you can. Faster! And pull it in. You've got your fish. Isn't that exciting? The most exciting part of fishing is when you actually hook your fish and you begin to drag them in. Well, guess what? We can do that as writers. When we are writers, we want to be able to hook our readers just like we would hook a fish. We want to get them drawn into our story so that they want to keep reading it. That's going to be our goal for today. Today, you're going to be able to say, I can begin my narrative story with an introduction by using a hook to get readers interested and excited to read my story. Let's read that learning target together. And when we say hook, I want you to do this with your hands. Pretend like you're hooking your reader. Are you ready? Read it with me. I can begin my narrative story with an introduction by using a hook to get my readers interested and excited to read my story. Remember how yesterday we started planning and drafting our narrative story? First, we touched the pages and said each part. We said what happened at the beginning, the middle, and the end, and touched each page to think about what we were going to write on it. Then we went and we sketched, and we added a sketch for each page to remind ourselves what we wanted to put on that part of the story. And finally, we ended it with the best part. We wrote. You wrote what was happening on each page. Well, today, we're going to add to that story. We're going to think about the beginning of the story and how you can hook your readers so that when they read that very first page, they're going to be hooked into your story and want to read more. So writers can introduce their stories in lots of different ways. The important thing is that the way that you introduce your story hooks your reader. Today I'm going to teach you two kinds of hooks that you can try out so that your reader wants to read the rest of your story. The first kind of hook is called asking a question. This is just when you write a question for your reader to think about, that it's going to help them want to keep reading to find the answer. And the second kind of hook is when you describe the setting. You start by describing when the story takes place and where it takes place, so that your reader has a picture in their head of what's happening and wants to keep on reading. I did this work with my story about going to the beach to go collect seashells with my friend Kelly. I tried out both ways so I could figure out which one was going to work best. First, I came up with a question and I said, have you ever been shelling before? I have. One day I walked all around the beach looking at shell after shell. So I thought about a question and wrote a question my reader might have, and then I answered my question so that the reader would want to keep reading. Then I decided to try out a setting hook, and I came up with this. One hot day last summer, I headed to Indian Rocks Beach to go looking for shells. So I told my reader when by saying, one hot day last summer, and I said where, Indian Rocks Beach. So now my reader has a picture in their head of when the story is happening and where it's happening before I jump in and tell the whole story. After I thought of those two hooks, I had to pick one that I thought would work best for my story, and I decided that I liked the setting lead best, the one that tells them when and where it's happening. I decided that's the one I want to put into my story. Now that I have my hook in my head, I need to get it onto my paper. I pulled my story out and took a look at it from yesterday and realized I don't have any room to write this on my first page. No problem. I just got a new piece of paper and wrote out my hook. One hot day last summer, I headed to Indian Rocks Beach to go looking for shells. All I have to do is put this piece of paper in the front of my story, and now I have a great hook that's going to draw my readers in. I could go and add a sketch, and then keep writing and working on my story. All right, it's time to practice making some hooks. I want you to imagine that you're writing a story about something we all know about, the first day of school. I want you to imagine in your mind about how the story might go. Walking into the room, meeting your new teacher, finding your new desk. Now I want you to think about how a hook or a beginning of a story like that might sound. What might be a question that you could ask your reader to hook them into your story about the first day of school? What might you write to describe the setting? I want you to practice saying a hook for a story about the first day of school. You're going to move to the next Nearpod slide and you're going to record yourself saying your hook. Maybe you're going to ask a question. Maybe you're going to describe the setting. It's up to you. Practice it a couple times out loud and then move to the next Nearpod slide to record what you came up with.